And as the sun goes down, she'll leave the cemetery. Her life, it wears a frown, no gay frivolity.
Hello and welcome to another song from the Witch's House. As you can see today, I'm in my dining room, and the reason for that is because I've got lots of pieces of Victorian furniture which I'm going to show you in some short clips that David's going to intersperse. But the song that you've just heard is called Victoriana, and it was written about 7 or 8 years ago. And really, although I've based it on a central female character, it really is a celebration of all things Victorian, because I realised quite a long time ago, probably in my 20s, not that long ago then, I realised that I really gravitate towards things from the Victorian era. So for example, I love the Victorian Gothic furniture. You can see a cabinet just behind me. That was the first piece of Victorian furniture that I ever purchased. I used to go to an antique shop. I did house clearances really, but had quite a few antiques, called 21st Century Antiques, run by a chap called Dave. I still see him around and about, even though he's retired. And I saw this piece of furniture and I really fell in love with it. It's the intricate carving and the detail that the Victorians put on some of their carved oak furniture. So I'm somebody who's never set foot in a branch of IKEA. I don't look down on people who do. It's just not to my personal taste. My students tell me that when you set foot in a branch of IKEA, it's designed so that you can't get out again. You have to go all the way around. I hate places like that manipulate you to walk the full distance. So yeah, I'm not really drawn to modern things. I like things that have got a history. And what particularly draws me to this dark oak Victorian furniture then, well, several things. First of all, you are looking at a very unique and individual piece of furniture, because obviously no two carvings are ever the same. Secondly, you're looking at a piece of work that was probably crafted over many, many days, because you can't just carve something in 5 minutes. So you're looking at the real investment of time from the craftsmen themselves. You're also marveling really at the materials. I mean, I wonder when the oak tree was planted that was used to make that piece of furniture behind me. It was probably a tree that was planted before the reign of Elizabeth I. And then you've got the fact that once created, this piece of furniture created in the Victorian era, which was what, 1837 to the early 1900s, about 1901. Then you've got the fact that that piece of furniture has lived through so much history. So it's come through the Victorian era, then the Edwardian period. It's come through the First World War, obviously the Great Depression of the 1920s, and then you get into the 30s and the start of World War II, and the Roaring 40s, and then the 1950s when the country was picking itself up after the war. Then you've got the swinging 60s and another 60 years on top of that. So if this furniture could speak, what tales would it tell of the things that it's been privy to? That kind of fascinates me, that kind of story side of it. And I think when you buy a piece of furniture like this, you don't really own it. You're like the custodian of it, because, you know, hopefully I'll have this furniture for the rest of my life. And then when I'm no longer here, somebody like Dave will come along and do a house clearance, and it'll end up in another auction, and somebody else hopefully will buy it and love and cherish it for the duration of their life, and so it goes on. So I'm really fascinated by these sort of like antique pieces of furniture and the work that's gone into them. So I'm going to show you around my little Victorian dining room. The latest piece of Victorian ephemera that I purchased was, let me show you. So I don't know if you can see this. It's a trinket dish basically, and I will get David to show you what's engraved in the heart of it. But I purchased that from a shop called Fisherton Warehouse, and the chap in there knows me, and he said, I'm not surprised you bought that because it's very gothic. He knows I've got very gothic taste. But what really appealed to me was it's got an inscription, so it's personalized. I'm not quite sure if I can read it in this light. Let's have a little look. I had this on my dining table on New Year's Eve when I had my friends Sally, Paul and Joe round, and I put after dinner mints in it. And then I said to them, look, if you look at the centre of it, it says a New Year's Eve gift, Isabella, Tom and Lizzie Farquharson, to their father and mother, 1868. So there we were admiring this trinket dish on New Year's Eve that was over 150 years old. Probably a Scottish family, I would imagine. Farquharson, I think, is a Scottish name. And obviously, the Scots really enjoy New Year. They make a bit more of it than we English. But how wonderful. So I'm going to love and cherish that. And particularly every New Year, I will pass it around. So, yeah, I have a great admiration for the Victorians. And as I say, they're jewellery items as well. But the song Victoriana... I had the idea of a lady who'd obviously lost her husband, and we know that Queen Victoria was very happy with Albert for many years, had many children, but then sadly he died prematurely, and she seemed to spend the rest of her reign looking quite glum and sad and never really coming out of mourning and wearing lots of black. And so that was kind of like the story that I told in the words to Victoriana. And I suppose really I was drawing an analogy between the fog of London. I talk about she'll vanish in the fog, that rolls in off the Thames, for London wears a smog that only time will cleanse. I was drawing an analogy between the pea soup of fog of London that would have been prevalent at the time and the kind of fog of grief that we all go through, which really only time can cleanse. So yeah, that's my story of Victoriana. I'm painting a picture of a Victorian lady in her long dark clothes who's missing her husband. She's lighting her Victorian lanterns. She's thinking about him at night, and she's just basically grieving. And as you know, my songs are very sad ones. So this song was written about 7 years ago. I played it to my mum before she died, obviously, and she wasn't a huge fan because of the tempo in it. She said it made her feel a bit tense. And I think David said the same thing when he revisited the song. But I kind of like the juxtaposition between the tempo of the song and the fact that I'm singing quite slowly. But anyway, we thought we'd share you that. Oh, and my clock is about to strike 10. I never managed to make one of these films without the clock making an appearance. Oh, the other thing I just want to say is that little Bugsy has had his operation now, and up until recently he was stood at my feet making lots of noise, but I've sent him away to his basket. He had a 7-hour operation. I was on tenterhooks. He was in the animal hospital for about 10-11 days. It was protracted a little bit by the fact the poor vet had food poisoning the first day, so couldn't do it on the day that he intended. And then Bugsy got a very slight infection, but it was nothing, and he's over it now. And we're going back to the vets in a minute for his checkup. So poor little thing is missing an awful lot of hair off his back. He looks like he's been run over by a Boeing 747. But I want to give a massive shout out to Anderson Moore's Vets in Hursley, just outside Winchester, particularly Ed Ives, the surgeon, because they just did an amazing job with my little doggy, and I'm so grateful to them. Anyway, thank you once again for listening to one of our songs. As usual, please like and subscribe. They are available on Bandcamp should you want to purchase them. I normally talk about jewellery and things. I'm showing you some of my jewellery in some of the photographs. March is the month for aquamarines. I do have an aquamarine ring, but it's at the jewellers at the moment, so I can't show it to you. But I'm not quite sure what aquamarines are good for in the crystal healing book, but I'll go away and have a look. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and until we meet again, some witchy magic is coming your way.